The first bite stopped me cold. I lowered my fork and whispered, "No, that can't be." The biscuit crumbled exactly the way my mother's always had. The butter melted into every soft layer, and the taste carried me straight back to the little kitchen where she used to hum while baking. Martha, the diner owner, walked past my table. "You all right, Cowboy?" I looked up. "Who baked these biscuits?" She forced a smile. "Just something we serve." I didn't ask where they came from. She wiped the counter without meeting my eyes. I said we serve them. I stood. "No. Someone made these. They taste exactly like my mother's recipe, and she never wrote it down." "So who baked them?" Every conversation inside the diner stopped. A spoon clinked against a coffee cup. Nobody spoke. One rancher stared into his plate. Another suddenly found the window fascinating. Martha laughed too loudly. "Folks, who's ready for more coffee?" Nobody answered. I repeated myself. "Who baked these biscuits?" Still nothing. The silence felt heavier than a coming storm. Then I noticed someone standing near the kitchen doorway. Woman. Her dress was faded. Her apron carried flour stains that never seemed to wash away. Dark circles rested beneath tired eyes. She wasn't hiding. She simply looked forgotten. Picked up another biscuit and walked toward her. "You baked these, didn't you?" She hesitated before nodding once. "Yes. They're incredible." Her eyes dropped to the floor. "Thank you," I smiled. "My mother made biscuits exactly like these." She whispered, "I'm glad they reminded you of someone good." They reminded me of home. For just a second, I thought I saw tears gathering in her eyes. Before either of us could speak again, Martha stepped between us. "Grace, there's more dough waiting." Grace answered softly. "Yes, ma'am." She disappeared into the kitchen without another word. I watched the swinging door close. An old ranch hand shuffled toward my table, carrying fresh coffee. He set the mug down carefully. "Asked too many questions, son." I only thanked the baker. He leaned closer. "That's exactly the problem." "What problem?" He glanced around before speaking. "Around here, she's someone you don't notice." I frowned. "Why?" "You'll live longer if you don't ask. I've never been good at minding other people's rules." He chuckled without smiling. I figured. "What did she do?" He sighed. "Wrong question. So tell me the right one." He looked toward the kitchen. "The right question is, what did this town do to her?" The words settled inside me like a stone. I watched the kitchen door again, hoping Grace would return. She never did. Instead, the room slowly filled with forced laughter, louder than before, like everyone wanted to bury the silence. I finished the last biscuit without tasting it. My appetite was gone. Only questions remained. I placed enough coins on the table to cover breakfast. As I reached the door, old Ben called after me, "Careful." "Cowboy." I looked back. Some secrets don't stay buried because they're dead. They stay buried because everybody helped bury them. I stepped outside into the morning sun. Before climbing onto my horse, I made myself one quiet promise. I wasn't leaving town until I learned why everyone feared the woman who baked my mother's biscuits. The more people warned me to stay away from Grace, the more I wanted to know who had broken her. I returned to the diner the next morning. Martha looked up. "Back again?" "I liked the biscuits." She smirked. "Of course you did." I sat at the same table. When breakfast arrived, another warm biscuit rested beside my plate. I caught Grace glancing toward me before disappearing into the kitchen. I smiled to myself. The following morning, it happened again, and the morning after that. Finally, I carried the untouched biscuit to the kitchen. "Doorway, you keep giving me extras." Grace looked embarrassed. "I thought you might like one for the trail." "I'd rather eat it here." She gave the smallest smile. "I'm glad." I leaned against the doorway. "Will you sit for a minute?" "I shouldn't." "1 minute." She hesitated, then quietly sat across from me. "I'm Ethan," I said. "I know." "You do?" "People talk. Do they say anything good?" She almost laughed. "Not usually." "What do they say about you?" Her smile disappeared. "I don't listen anymore." "I do." "You shouldn't." "I make my own opinions." She studied my face. "That's rare. I've been called stubborn." "Believe that." For the first time, I heard warmth in her voice. I asked gently, "How did you learn my mother's recipe?" "I didn't." "Then how?" My husband found it years ago from an old traveler. You owned this diner? We did. Her eyes drifted toward the dining room. It used to be ours. What happened? She folded her hands. My husband died. I'm sorry. So was everyone. For about a week, I frowned. What changed? Stories. What stories? That I brought bad luck. Do you believe them? She looked directly at me. If I did, I wouldn't still be alive. A customer shouted from outside. There she is. The cursed baker. Another voice laughed. Don't let her touch your food. I stood. They don't know what they're talking about. Grace touched my sleeve. Please don't. Why not? Because words become fights. And fights become graves. I slowly sat again. They're wrong. I know. Then why stay quiet? Because I got tired of screaming. Before I could answer, the front door opened. A tall man, wearing a sheriff's badge, stepped inside. He walked straight toward my table. You must be... Ethan. I am. I'm Sheriff Dalton. He offered his hand. I shook. Welcome to town. Thank you. He smiled politely. I hear you've taken an interest in old stories, like learning the truth. The truth can be expensive. I've paid high prices before. His smile faded. My advice is simple. I'm listening. Leave the past where it belongs. And where's that? Buried. He nodded toward Grace. She suffered enough. Grace lowered her eyes without speaking. I looked back at him. Is that concern? It's experience. Sounds more like a warning. You can call it whichever helps you sleep. He tipped his hat. Enjoy your breakfast. After he left, the room slowly breathed again. I turned toward Grace. What is he hiding? She stared at the table. I shouldn't say. You can trust me. I want to. Then tell me. She closed her eyes. The night my husband died. She stopped. What happened? Her voice trembled. I've already lost enough people. I'm not leaving. That's exactly what frightens me. Why? She looked into my eyes. Because everyone who tried to help me paid for it. I reached across the table. You don't have to carry this alone. For a moment, she almost took my hand. Instead, she pulled hers back. I wish I believed that. Watching. Her retreat behind silence hurt more than I expected. Whoever had destroyed her life wasn't finished. They had convinced an entire town to erase her without burying her, and I knew I was getting closer to the truth. One burned photograph told me the town had lied for nearly 15 years. I found Grace behind the diner before sunrise. I was hoping you'd come, I said. I almost didn't. Will you tell me what happened? She stared across the empty road. If I start, I have to finish. I'm listening. She took a slow breath. My husband and I owned a ranch outside town. The diner too? Yes, we worked both. What changed? Fire. I stayed silent. It started after midnight. How? I never found out. Where were you? In the barn with a sick mare. And your husband? He was asleep inside. You couldn't reach him? I tried. Her voice cracked. I ran through the flames. What happened? They pulled me back. Who did? Men who said the house would collapse. It did. She nodded. He never came out. I'm sorry. She wiped away tears. The next morning, people whispered that I caused it. Why would they believe that? They needed someone alive to blame. Was there an investigation? A few questions. And? Nothing. No report. None that I ever saw. I shook my head. That doesn't make sense. It never did. I reached for her hand. This wasn't your fault. I've repeated those words for 15 years. Do you believe them? Some mornings. Before I could answer, old Ben stepped from behind the alley. I've been waiting. I frowned. For me? For both of you. He carried a rusted metal box. I kept this hidden, Grace gasped. I thought it was gone. Ben handed it to me. Found it after the fire. Why keep it secret? Because somebody wanted it destroyed. I carefully opened the lid. Inside rested a burned photograph. Grace and her husband smiled beside a ranch house. The edges were black with smoke. Beneath it lay a gold wedding ring. Grace covered her mouth. I thought they buried this with him. There was more, Ben said. I lifted a folded paper. Only half remained. What is this? Property contract. It's torn. Exactly. I read the surviving lines. Grace Holloway and Samuel Holloway. Ranch ownership. Then nothing. The second half is missing. Ben nodded. It disappeared before anyone else arrived. Who took it? I don't know. Grace whispered. Someone wanted ownership hidden. My pulse quickened. So the fire wasn't only about the ranch. Ben looked toward the street. I've said enough. You know more. I know staying alive matters. He walked away before I could stop him. That night I locked my hotel door. The metal box sat beneath my bed. I couldn't stop studying the burned photograph. Everyone had claimed Grace brought ruin. Yet every piece of evidence pointed somewhere else. Near midnight I heard footsteps. Then the doorknob moved. I stood. Who's there? No answer. The lock rattled harder. Wood groaned. The door burst open. A shadow rushed inside. I grabbed the chair beside me. What do you want? The stranger never spoke. Instead, he shoved me aside and crawled beneath the bed. The box, I shouted. He found it first. I swung the chair. It shattered against the wall. The box slipped from his hands. I tackled him. He elbowed my ribs and broke free. Before I could see his face, he leapt through the open window and vanished into the darkness. I picked up the metal box. Nothing inside had been taken. Whoever broke into my room hadn't come for money. They had come for the truth, and that meant someone feared those burned memories more than any gun in town. The ranch wasn't destroyed by accident. It was stolen before the fire even started. I carried the burned contract into the county records office. A young woman looked up from a stack of dusty books. Can I help you? I hope so. I'm Emily Ross. Ethan, what are you searching for? A ranch that disappeared 15 years ago. She studied the torn contract. Grace Holloway. You know her? I know nobody says her name. Will you check the records? She nodded. Give me a minute. She disappeared between tall shelves. When she returned, she carried an old ledger. I found it. What does it say? She frowned. The ranch changed owners. When? 3 days before the fire. I felt my stomach tighten. To whom? Victor Hayes. Grace sold it? Emily shook her head. The signature doesn't look right. You've seen her writing? She signed library papers for years. And? This isn't her hand. You think it's forged? I think someone wanted people to believe she agreed. I closed the ledger. Can I copy this? You should. Will anyone stop me? They might. Who? Emily lowered her voice. People who still work for Victor. I thanked her and rode toward the largest ranch outside town. A handsome brick house overlooked endless cattle. A well-dressed man stepped onto the porch. You must be Ethan. I am. I'm Victor Hayes. He smiled warmly. I've heard you're asking questions. I've heard you're giving answers. He laughed. I like you already. I doubt that. Walk with me. Followed him across the yard. He pointed toward the grazing. Herd. Beautiful, isn't it? It is. I built all this, did you? His smile barely changed. What do you mean? I found records, so? They say Grace's ranch became yours. They do. 3 days before the fire. Business happens. Quickly. The signature looks forged. He stopped walking. Careful. I'm only repeating facts. No. He looked directly into my eyes. You're repeating dangerous? Ideas. I just want the truth. The truth feeds nobody. It matters. Not as much as survival. He reached into his pocket. Take this, he offered. A thick roll of bills. What's that for? A fresh start. I don't want your money. You could work for me. I'm not looking for work. Everyone's looking for something. I'm looking for justice. His smile disappeared. You don't know what you're digging into. Then, explain it. I won't. Why? Because curious men often disappear. I turned away. I'll take my chances. When I reached the stable that evening, my horse cried in pain. I ran forward. Easy. Boy, a deep cut marked his front leg. Someone had slashed him. My hands shook. Who did this? No answer came, only silence. I cleaned the wound as carefully as I could. Later, Grace found me outside the stable. What happened? Someone hurt my horse. Her face turned pale. I told you. Told me what? They're starting. I won't leave. You should. I can't. She grabbed my arm. Please. They killed my husband. I know. They'll kill you too. I looked into her frightened eyes. Did Samuel stop fighting? She whispered, never. Then neither will I. Tears filled her eyes. You don't owe me this. I know. Then why? Because nobody stood beside you. She looked away. I stopped believing anyone ever would. I gently squeezed her hand. You don't have to believe it yet, Ethan. I made a promise the day I tasted your biscuits. What promise? I wouldn't leave until I learned the truth. Truth has a price. I'm willing to pay it. She took a slow breath. So was Samuel. I'll finish what he never had the chance to finish. For the first time since meeting her, Grace didn't pull her hand away. She simply held on, and somehow that silent moment felt stronger than every threat Victor Hayes had made. I knew the fight had become personal. There was no turning back now. The man everyone called a hero had built his fortune on murder. I met Emily before sunrise inside the library. You found something? I found more than I wanted. She placed 3 dusty folders on the table. These were hidden behind damaged records. I opened the first folder. Witness statements. They were never filed. Why? They vanished before the hearing. I read each page carefully. These people saw strangers near Grace's ranch. Emily nodded. Every witness disappeared within months. Moved away. That's what everyone claimed. You don't believe it. I don't. I closed the folder. What else? She pushed another file toward me. A doctor's report. I unfolded the yellowed paper. My husband. I whispered before correcting myself. Grace's husband was still alive. Emily pointed to a paragraph. The doctor reached the ranch. He found Samuel breathing. I stared at the words. Then why didn't he survive? He never got the chance. Explain. The report ends suddenly. That's impossible. There's one more page. She handed it to me. A handwritten note covered the bottom. Ordered away before treatment could begin. Ordered by who? No name. I folded the papers carefully. I need to find that doctor. Emily gave me an address. He lives alone now. I rode there immediately. An elderly man answered after my second knock. Dr. Harris? Who's asking? My name is Ethan. I've stopped answering questions. I came about the Holloway fire. His face turned pale. You should leave. I can't. He looked over my shoulder before opening the door. Come inside. We sat across from each other. I asked quietly, was Samuel alive? Yes. Could you have saved him? I believe so. What stopped you? He closed his eyes. Men with rifles. Whose men? I was told to leave. By whom? He whispered, Victor Hayes. I clenched my fists, and Sheriff Dalton stood beside him. You saw him? I'll never forget. Why stay silent? I was a coward. You were threatened. I still chose silence. I thanked him and rode straight to Old Ben. He was repairing a broken fence. I need the truth. He lowered his hammer. You already know most of it. I need the rest. He sighed deeply. I should have spoken years ago. What happened? Victor paid people. How many? Enough. Martha? Yes. The sheriff? Yes. The judge? He nodded slowly. They buried every piece of evidence. For money, for land, and fear. I looked at him. You stayed quiet, too. I did. Why? I had grandchildren. You regret it? Every single day. That evening, I found Grace alone behind the diner. She looked at my face and whispered, You know. I do. She turned away. I trusted them. You trusted neighbors. I trusted friends. They watched everything burn. They watched more than that. She covered her face. If I'd gone back inside, you would have died. But Samuel might have lived. No. You don't know. I know enough. She looked at me through tears. I'm so tired. I know. I don't think I can keep fighting. I stepped closer. You've been fighting alone. I failed him. No, I failed everyone. I gently took her hands. Listen to me. She nodded silently. They buried your name. She searched my face. Not the truth. Her shoulders trembled. No one has ever said that to me. Then they should have. A small smile appeared. It was fragile. Pain still lived behind it, but hope had finally found a place beside it. Seeing that smile told me everything. Victor Hayes hadn't only stolen land, he had stolen 15 years of Grace's life. And I was determined to make him answer for every single one of them. When the whole town gathered, I placed the missing contract on the table, and nobody could breathe. The annual town gathering filled the square with ranchers, merchants, and families. I stepped onto the platform carrying the metal box. People noticed immediately. "What are you doing, Cowboy?" Someone shouted. I came to tell the truth. Victor Hayes folded his arms. This should be entertaining. Grace stood near the back beside Martha. She looked terrified. I placed the burned photograph, wedding ring, and half contract on the table. I've spent days asking questions. Nobody answered. I finally found answers. Victor laughed. "You found old junk." "I found evidence." He shrugged. "Evidence of nothing." Emily stepped onto the platform. "I disagree." She held up another folded paper. Several people gasped. Victor's smile faded. "What is that?" Emily looked at me. "I found the missing half of the property contract hidden inside the library archives." I unfolded both pieces. They match. The torn edges fit together perfectly. I held the completed contract above my head. "This signature is forged." Voices spread through the crowd. Victor raised his hands. "He's lying." I looked toward old Ben. "Tell them." Ben removed his hat. "My name's been stained by silence long enough." The square became quiet. I found the burned box after the fire. He pointed toward Victor. I saw his men searching for it. Victor shouted, "You old fool!" Ben ignored him. I watched witnesses disappear. He looked around the crowd. I watched neighbors accept money. Several faces lowered. I watched good people become cowards. No one argued. Victor pointed at Ben. "He's confused." "I'm ashamed," Ben replied. "But I'm not confused." I turned toward Sheriff Dalton. "You've heard enough." He stared at the ground. "Tell them." He remained silent. I stepped closer. "Did you hide the investigation?" His jaw tightened. "Aye." The crowd waited. Grace never moved. Finally, Dalton removed his badge. "Yes." A murmur swept across the square. "I destroyed reports." He swallowed hard. I ignored witnesses. He looked at Grace. "I let innocent people suffer." Victor shouted, "Don't listen to him." Dalton continued. "Victor Hayes ordered me to bury every piece of evidence." Victor backed away. "You're blaming me to save yourself." Dalton shook his head. "I'm trying to save what's left of my soul." Victor's face twisted with rage. "You fool." He rushed toward me. I barely raised my arms before his fist struck my shoulder. I stumbled backward. "You should have stayed out of this," he yelled. I hit him across the jaw. He lunged again. We crashed into the table. The evidence scattered across the platform. He grabbed my shirt. "I built this town. You stole it." He swung again. I ducked. He lost his balance. Several deputies rushed forward. Dalton raised his voice. "Take him into custody." The deputies hesitated. Dalton shouted again. "That's an order." They seized Victor's arms. "Let me go." "No," Dalton answered. "It's over." Victor struggled until handcuffs clicked around his wrists. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Nobody cheered. Nobody spoke. I turned toward Grace. She hadn't moved. I walked slowly across the square. "Grace." She looked at me. "Is it really finished?" "It is." She glanced around the town. People who had ignored her for years now met her eyes. Some cried. Some looked away. Martha stepped forward first. "I'm sorry." Another voice followed. "So am I." Then another. Grace listened quietly. She didn't celebrate. She didn't cry. She simply inhaled. Then she closed her eyes and released a long, steady breath. It sounded like 15 years of pain leaving her heart. She opened her eyes again. For the first time since I'd met her, I didn't see fear. I saw peace. And somehow that silent breath meant more than every confession, every arrest, and every victory we had won together that day. Victor begged for mercy from the woman he had erased for 15 years. The morning after Victor's arrest, the town felt different. Nobody whispered when Grace walked by. Nobody looked away. I found her standing outside the diner. "How are you feeling?" "I don't know yet." "That's honest?" She smiled softly. I forgot what honest felt like. News spread quickly. Victor's ranch had been seized. His cattle were auctioned. His bank accounts were frozen. Men who once praised him suddenly claimed they barely knew him. Grace shook her head. "They're running from him. Now! They're running from the truth!" Deputy approached us. "Grace." "Yes?" "Victor wants to see you." She looked at me. "I don't have to." "No, but I think you should choose for yourself." She nodded. "I'll go." The jail felt colder than the morning air. Victor sat alone behind iron bars. The moment he saw Grace, he stood. "You came," she answered. Calmly, "I did." He gripped the bars. "I've lost everything." She remained silent. "I was wrong." She waited. "I thought money could bury the past. It couldn't. I know that now." He lowered his head. "I don't expect you to understand," she replied quietly. "I understand more than you think." Tears filled his eyes. "I'm asking for mercy." She stepped closer. "I already gave you that years ago." He looked confused. "What?" "I chose not to hate you." His voice broke. "Then, forgive me." She took one slow breath. "I already forgave you." Hope flashed across his face. Then she finished. "But forgiveness doesn't erase justice." His shoulders collapsed. "I can't change what I did." "No. I'd trade everything to undo it." "No, it's too late." "Yes." He slowly sat back down. I had never seen a man look so completely defeated. Not because he had lost his fortune, because he had finally faced himself. Outside the jail, people waited for Grace. Martha stepped forward first. "I owe you more than words," Grace answered gently. "You don't owe me perfection. What do I owe you?" "The courage never to stay silent." "Again?" Martha nodded through tears. "Promise." Others approached. Some apologized with shaking voices. Some stumbled over every sentence. Some only apologized after seeing Victor in chains. Grace thanked each one. She never raised her voice. She never demanded anything. Later we walked beyond the edge of town. "I don't know how to accept kindness anymore," she admitted. "You don't have to rush. It feels strange, because you've survived without it. I kept expecting everyone to leave. I'm still here." She looked at me. "Why?" "Because I meant every promise." She laughed softly. "Almost forgot people like you existed. I almost forgot hope existed." Stopped overlooking the old ranch. Grass had begun growing where ashes once covered the ground. Grace reached for my hand. "I used to come here just to remember, and now I think I can finally come here to heal." I squeezed her hand gently. "You don't have to walk that road alone." She leaned against my shoulder. For several quiet moments, neither of us spoke. We didn't need words. The wind carried away the last echoes of 15 painful years. For the first time, our future felt larger than our past, and I knew healing had finally become stronger than revenge. I thought I had stopped for breakfast. I never imagined I was finding a family. Months passed before I truly noticed how much the town had changed. I pushed open the diner's front door. Every table was full. People laughed instead of whispering. Someone called across the room. "Grace, save me 2 biscuits." Another voice answered. "Make mine 3. I smiled. Nobody hit her anymore. Grace stepped from the kitchen carrying a fresh basket. "There you are. I wouldn't miss breakfast." She laughed. "You never do." I sat at my usual table. She placed a warm biscuit on my plate. "No extra today?" She grinned. "Everyone gets the same kindness." "No, I like that." "So do I." Martha walked over. "I've got something to tell you." "I'm listening." "The diner belongs to Grace again." I looked at Grace. "Really?" She nodded. "The paperwork was finished yesterday." "Congratulations." I almost cried. "You earned it." She smiled. "No, we earned it." After breakfast, we rode together toward the old ranch. The broken fences had been replaced. Fresh paint covered the barn. Children chased each other across the open field. I watched them, laughing. Hard to believe this place once held nothing but ashes. Grace looked around quietly. I used to think I'd never come back. What changed? You. I shook my head. You changed. I only remembered who I was. Because someone believed me. I simply listened. Nobody else did. Old Ben waved from the repaired gate. Looks different, doesn't it? It looks alive. He smiled proudly. That, as the way Samuel always imagined it. Grace wiped away a happy tear. I think he'd be smiling. Today, I think so too. That evening, the diner finally emptied. Grace poured 2 cups of coffee. Stay a little longer. I plan to. She sat across from me. So, are you finally done wandering? I looked around the warm room. The walls no longer felt haunted. The silence no longer felt heavy. Outside, neighbors talked together beneath the evening sky. I looked back at her. Think I found where I belong. She reached across the table and took my hand. I was hoping you'd say that. I smiled. I've spent years chasing the next trail, and now I don't need another one. She stood and walked into the kitchen. When she returned, another warm biscuit rested on a small plate. For you? I thought breakfast was over. She laughed softly. It is. Then what's this for? A new beginning. I broke the biscuit. Apart. The familiar smell filled the room. This time it didn't pull me backward. It carried me forward. I thought about my mother. For years her memory had only reminded me of loss. Now it reminded me of love. She had taught me that kindness could outlive grief. Grace watched me carefully. What are you thinking? I'm thinking my mother would have liked you. She smiled through shining eyes. I wish I could have met her. I think you already have. She looked puzzled. How? Every time you bake these biscuits. She laughed as tears slipped down her cheeks. Around us, the diner buzzed with quiet happiness. Everyone knew exactly who had baked the biscuits. Everyone knew exactly what had been stolen. And everyone knew the truth had finally come home. As I took one last bite, I realized something simple. Justice had rebuilt the town, but kindness had rebuilt us, and that was the home I had been searching for all along.